You will never know the life that you don't choose. I read that quote about 4 years ago at a time in my life when I felt stuck in the same routine, seeing the same places, surrounded by the same people. Then I made one big decision that changed everything for me. I decided to move abroad to Spain to teach English. Living in a different country has definitely been one of the most valuable things that I've done in my 20s thus far. It allowed me to travel to 12 different countries, learn languages, and meet people from all around the world. If you've ever thought about moving abroad and haven't made the leap yet, here's why it'll be the best decision that you'll ever make. What usually stops people from making this leap to move abroad is the fear of the unknown. Leaving behind what's familiar to you, not knowing the language, the culture, or how things work. Maybe feeling like it's too complicated and not knowing where to start. Thinking that it's too expensive when in reality, some places have a lot lower cost of living. And while all of these are real, valid concerns, I know that if I can do it, then so can you. And I'll tell you that once you do, you get the opportunity to participate in a deep, life-changing cultural experience. Right now is one of the best moments in history to move abroad. And in this video, I want to share with you guys why it's something that you should consider, especially in your 20s. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Evan. A few years ago, I took a leap, packed my bags, and I started to build this life abroad. Since then, I've lived, worked, and explored in many different countries all over the world, and now I'm here to help you do the same. This channel is about sharing my real-life experiences, giving you travel tips, step-by-step guides to help you move abroad, find work, and start building this life that you love in a different country. Whether you're thinking about teaching English, working remotely, or you just want to travel for a long period of time, you're in the right place. So let's talk about why should you move abroad? I think that we can all agree that once you enter 18 to 20 years old, you start to feel that societal push to get your life together. And it usually comes from all directions, from your family, from social media, from your peers, or maybe from your own internal expectations. This is the life timeline myth that society has pushed on us ever since we were kids. You go to college, you get a good job, you get married, buy a house, and then have kids. And if you're checking all these boxes off at the right time, then they say you're on track. But if you're not, then you're perceived as falling behind. And I remember once I turned 20, it felt like the clock had started on figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. Social media and comparison culture made it even worse. Seeing people land six-figure jobs, start their own businesses, get engaged, buy houses. Back then, I knew that everybody had their own path and their own trajectory of life, but I still couldn't help but feel like I was behind. And it was only until I moved abroad that I was able to gain some space from that pressure. Schools and traditional institutions intentionally try to put you into a category so that they can grade you or give you a performance review. And I know how suffocating this can feel, especially if you're somebody that's in the stage of figuring out who they are and what they want to do. And it's only when I got out of the system that I realized that I want my life to be about exploring the world and, most importantly, exploring my own desires and goals. So why now? As I said before, your 20s is literally the best time to move abroad. Why? Because you have the least to lose and the most to gain. You can take advantage of the fact that you have no mortgage, no serious career, and no kids. Some of you might have one or even all three of these things. I promise, even if you do, you can make it work. Another reason you should move abroad in your 20s is because if you don't like it, you can always come back. Worst case scenario, it's not for you. You learn some life lessons and move on. Best case scenario, you find a life you love. The bottom line is that the older you get, the harder it becomes for you to take that leap. As the saying goes, with age comes responsibility. And contrary to what some people believe, I think your 20s is a time for trial and error, for experimentation, and for taking risks. And this brings me to my next point: escaping the routine and taking a risk. For many people, a routine and predictable life offers some type of safety, support, or security. However, if you're anything like me, then this life seems boring and unfulfilling. I can remember being at a crossroads back in 2021 before I was about to graduate, fearing the reality of being stuck in a 9-to-5 job before I got a chance to travel the world, while simultaneously fearing moving abroad to a country that I had never been before. When you move to a new country, everything is unfamiliar, from the language to the culture to just daily tasks. This forces you to make decisions and adapt in ways that you probably have never had to do before. You'll be surprised at how quickly you grow and mature when you have no choice but to tackle the unknown literally every day. Living in a new country teaches you that you can't control everything. Things like bureaucracy, language barriers, or cultural differences will most definitely throw you off. But rather than being scared to make a mistake, embrace uncertainty. Recognize it as just a necessary part of life. Let go of these rigid routines and patterns, and you gain the flexibility to make the most out of every situation you're in, finding out who you really are. The environment we live in, physically and mentally, affects who we are, how we think, and what kind of choices we make. It provides the context to our daily lives, our habits, and the people that we interact with. I like to think that moving abroad is like the ultimate rebrand. It offers you a clean slate to reinvent yourself and show up differently in the world, maybe as somebody that you always hoped to be. This quote is as true to moving abroad as it is in life. You really get out what you put into the experience. And I actually tested this out when I first moved to Spain. I knew I couldn't just sit back and be the timid, shy version of myself. So eventually I learned to be more outgoing and more social. And in return, I gained friends that I still have to this day. And I felt an actual connection to the country that I was living in, almost like I was supposed to be there. Going from living in this big city in the US to living in this small rural town in the middle of Thailand, I began to realize how much of my life was shaped by comfortability and routine, and how much I was missing out on by not pushing the boundaries of what I thought was possible for my life. When you move abroad, your intention is not to feel like a visitor. It's to feel like you're a part of the culture. And I believe this is when the most meaningful transformational experiences will happen. When you fully immerse yourself in a culture, you start to see life from the inside out, not just from the lens of a tourist. You learn about the values and the traditions that shape the people, and you finally start to understand. Right now, this world is seeing so much racial discrimination, and I believe that all of this is happening because we have such a lack of understanding of each other. The things that we value here in the US are not the same things that Thai people value or Spanish people value. But when you spend time in a different culture, you understand that success and happiness look different for everyone. And once you realize that you can build a life anywhere, you stop being so afraid of change. The traditional path isn't the only one. There are infinite ways to build a more fulfilling life. To conclude this, I just want to say that your 20s are about figuring things out, who you are, what you want, and what kind of life truly makes you happy. And the truth is, you won't find these answers by staying in the same place, doing the same things, and surrounded by the same people. Moving abroad also doesn't mean you have everything figured out, and you're not running away from anything. It means you're choosing to take a risk to grow and expand your view of the world, instead of shrinking into what's comfortable. So if you've ever thought about moving abroad, this is your sign to go. Trust me, it won't always be easy, but I promise it will be worth it. So drop a comment below. Have you ever thought about moving abroad, and what's holding you back? And also, if you already are living abroad, tell me about your experience. Tell me what are your favorite countries you visited so far. If you made it this far into the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace out. See you in the next video. Yeah.